Chapter 12, The Second War for Independence, and the New Nationalism. Introduction. In this lecture, we follow the energetic fortunes of the young, virile, reaching republic as Americans fight off their former British masters for a second time in a war that never gets the attention it deserves in the history books. It was, actually, as important as the First War for Independence, because this time the determined Americans won the contest all by themselves, without their former French allies, and, like winning the homecoming football game against daunting odds, everybody got so excited by the victory that the country launched into a national celebration of its own identity for at least the next 20 years. The military victory was slim at best, that's true, and nobody was prepared for the fight, which made the outcome that much sweeter, especially as the war was fought everywhere in the new republic. You will take the whole tour of both the land and sea campaigns. You'll even be there when Francis Scott Key writes the words to the country's national anthem as he watches the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, giving proof through the night that our flag was still there, still fluttering over Fort McHenry in Baltimore Harbor, that is, which the British could not subdue, though they bombarded the fort's stalwart defenders all night till dawn's early light. You will also venture out to sea on the venerable Old Ironsides, with Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry as he takes on the Royal Navy's biggest men of war and splinters the enemy ships to kindling with a combination of Ironside's big guns and his crew's masterful maneuvering and sailing skills. Back on shore, you'll be with Andrew Jackson at New Orleans as his rough-and-ready, makeshift militia of volunteers humiliate seasoned British troops which had only recently beaten the great Napoleon Bonaparte himself. You'll be at the peace table when the Americans get some deserved respect, then launch out to clean out every vestige of British presence remaining on their soil, along with the Brits' Indian allies, so that they at last have all of their country all to themselves. Then you will follow the Americans' collectively exuberant celebration as they explore and define themselves anew, culturally, spiritually, economically, even artistically. You'll learn about Henry Clay's American system to create unprecedented economic prosperity on a national level. You'll watch as political animosities melt away in a collective surge of national feeling which has been ever after described as the era of good feelings. You'll learn that progress was still not easy because of economic disruptions like the Panic of 1819 and the cultural problem of slavery, but you will note at the same time the gradual regional knitting together of the country with new latticeworks of canals and paved roads, connections which later became the rights-of-way for the railroads in the next generation. And you will go along as intrepid settlers hitch up their wagon trains and move out into the West. You will learn about the Missouri Compromise, which tried to limit the presence of slavery out West, and what Chief Justice John Marshall and his Supreme Court were doing to try and create a body of law and precedent that would make it easier for the country to grow on a national level. You'll note how the Oregon Territory was brought into the Union at one end of the country, while Spanish-controlled Florida was brought in at the other. You will note the new confidence and sense of strength the country was feeling as President James Monroe published and then advertised his famous Monroe Doctrine, essentially putting all the European colonial powers on notice that their colonizing days in the Americas, North and South, were over. The United States of America has arrived, he was saying. We aren't a fluke, and we're not an accident. We have earned the right to be here, and we aren't going away. In this lecture, you will learn why all that Monroe was bragging about was actually true.